All right, 3 keys to getting the sort of win against Purdue we'd all like following the Ohio State landmark victory. And I have watched the Ducks versus them as many times as you have, I imagine. I imagine everybody's watched it a good amount. It still feels very recent because of that. But another game's here, and as exciting as that game was, Oregon's got to be able to look forward. So 3 keys to the game. First, I want to shout out Sabrina Ionescu. Game 3 dagger, top of the arc in the WNBA Finals. That was pretty sweet. She's just a stud, and she would have won a national championship if not for COVID. So, key number 1 for Oregon, establish the ground game. Purdue allows 228 rushing yards per game. This is an opportunity for Oregon's rushing attack to really pop off, to have an Oregon State level game where you're well over 200 on the ground. They were 7.5 yards per carry in that game. Purdue last week against Illinois struggled defending on the perimeter. Jordan James hasn't been a super side-to-side runner. He's a downhill sort of guy primarily. I wonder if you see a little more Kenyon Sadiq in some fly sweep pop pass actions, or get it to Tez Johnson or Trayshawn Holden. I wonder if a reverse doesn't come around. I don't know if Trayshawn Holden's going to play, but Oregon give an end around to a number of different guys, including but not limited to Kenyon Sadiq. So I think establishing the ground game here is important for 2 reasons. Number 1, if you can just line up and run the football, good way to move it, good way to get the clock down and force Purdue to execute consistently, not give them a bunch of drives, not give them a bunch of opportunities, dominate time of possession here. But secondly, when Oregon's running the football incredibly well, I wouldn't say the play action is a huge function of their offense, but certainly it's a component. And at the very least, if you're worried about the ground game, you can take those one-on-one shots on the outside. We saw how that went last week for Ohio State secondary. And Purdue's secondary is just straight up not on that level. They are not particularly close. So far this season, they're allowing about 225 passing yards per game, so they're actually a little bit better there. But still, are you facing the caliber of athlete against the Boilermakers that you are against Ohio State? No. So if Oregon can run the football, then Purdue has no chance of stopping the Ducks. And I don't know if they do anyway. Like, the way the Oregon offense played last week was probably its best individual game of the year. Because when you factor in the stakes, you factor in the competition they were going up against, that Jordan James was over 100 yards rushing and Dylan Gabriel was not sacked. It might be another 0 in the sack department for this Oregon team. But Purdue so far this season has been pretty good getting sacks to their opponents. They're averaging over 2 a game so far. They've compiled 14. They've also allowed 15. So offensive line might have some problems with the way this defensive line for Oregon is playing at the moment. But I think if Oregon establishes the ground game, that ensures Purdue's just not going to be able to stop Oregon. And I don't think they can score enough points to keep up, even though they put up a season-high 49 last week in the win against Illinois. They had 3 at the half. It was not... there was a lot of chaos. There was a defensive score. Like, Illinois kind of imploded. Purdue definitely made some plays, and the offense looks a lot better with Ryan Browne at quarterback compared to Hudson Card, who's out with in concussion protocol. But yeah, I think if Oregon runs football, they're going to be just fine. Key number 2, make Ryan Browne throw the ball. So Corey sent in this question that factors into this key. He said, "Hey Spencer, just wanted to point out Chip has yet to beat Oregon while coaching at another school." Fact check true. "Thoughts on Oregon facing a starting freshman quarterback at Purdue this Friday? Sounds like Birch will be out again. He will be in all likelihood, but seems like the defense just needs to rattle him early. Haven't seen his film yet or don't know much about Purdue's offensive line. Thoughts? Go Ducks." I'd be lying if I said I've watched a ton of Purdue football just because they've been so bad this year. They have not beaten an FBS opponent. Their only win of the season came in their week 1 game against Indiana State, alma mater of Larry Bird. Go Sycamores. But I don't think that Purdue has demonstrated they can play the sort of football that they put on display last week in the second half in Champaign consistently. So I don't have a lot of confidence that they're going to be able to just do that against this Oregon team that's played at a really high level this year. And remember, Dan Lanning has never lost knock on wood, to an unranked opponent in his coaching career. I don't anticipate that changing this week, even though, as I've talked about, the emotional letdown trap game duality that exists is very real. If Oregon fans out there, if you're concerned about that or have thought about it, I'm not blaming you. Everything's there. Big win against Ohio State, short week, long travel. Purdue can be a tough place to play. I don't know what their fans are going to be like because they are just struggling so much this year. But for Ryan Browne, he can make plays with his legs. And that's why I say key number 2 is make Ryan Browne throw the ball. Last week, he certainly made some throws. If you go watch the highlights of those throws, not a lot of tight window situations. This is a guy who is starting his second career college football game. I think Illinois has got a pretty solid football team. I'm going to go out on a limb and say their defensive line is not as talented as Oregon. Rush lane integrity is going to be huge. Make him kill you from the pocket. Force these Purdue wide receivers to go one-on-one with the Oregon defensive backs. I like Oregon's defense in that sort of situation, but what you don't want to do is allow him to settle in by letting him break contain. So I think you'll see a good number of quarterback spies from the Oregon linebackers in this game. Jeffrey Bossa has done that a lot over the years. Certainly Devin Jackson's a guy who's capable with his athletic traits. He had a great game against Ohio State, by the way, made a couple of really nice plays. But I think Oregon has to be able to keep him in the pocket and say, go ahead, read the defense, slice and dice, try to make throws outside the numbers. And if he does that, tip your cap and say, all right, that's a heck of a play. Nice job, young freshman. You got a bright future. But I don't think that he's going to be ready to do that with the way this Oregon defense has played this season. Remember, against Michigan State, starters did not allow a touchdown. UCLA starters did not allow a touchdown, just a pick six. Purdue's offense this year, I know they had a big game last week, under 24 points a game. Now they've made a change at offensive coordinator. The first game, and I believe Hudson Card was the one who played against Wisconsin, they put up 3 points. 3 points. That was on the road, but that was game 1 with the new offensive coordinator, 6. They put up 6 points at Wisconsin, and they lost the game 52-6. If Oregon plays the way they're capable, yeah, that's what this game should end up looking like. And Hudson Card did play in that game and only threw for 111 yards. So, they might be upgrading a little bit with Ryan Browne coming in as a young freshman who's playing with kind of nothing to lose here. But he's auditioning to be Purdue's quarterback of the future. And, I mean, one game in, looks good so far. This Oregon defense is a much different test. So make him throw the ball, keep him in the pocket. Key number 3, take the crowd out of it. What do you remember about those Purdue upsets that we've seen over the years? The last one I think was against Ohio State, but other really good teams have gone down in West Lafayette as well. What do you remember? Like I think Iowa has maybe lost. I could look into it further, but it's well known. You ask anybody amongst Big Ten circles, like, hey, weird things can happen in there. Crazy things can transpire. Yep, they can. Why? Great crowd. Great crowd. Take them out of it. Jump on Purdue early. Don't give them any semblance of hope like Black Widow gave to Hawkeye in Avengers Endgame. Don't give them that. Just make them feel like the sad, lonely Vandy fan against Alabama from years ago when they were down like 52-0 in the third quarter or something like that. Like, that's what you need to do to the crowd. Eliminate them as a factor. Don't let them get that inkling of, oh, could we be doing this again? Hey, I've seen this program do it before. Jump on them early, have a 14-3 lead at the end of the first quarter, and then go from there. If Oregon does that, I don't think Purdue's got the dogs on both sides to overcome a double-digit deficit, even at home. Those are the keys. You get that done, boom. Oregon will win big. Are we going to see Dante Moore in this game? I would like to. It would be great. I'm always a fan in these sorts of games when I expect Oregon to win big of A, getting your starters out of there to avoid injury, and B, giving young guys an opportunity in a real Power 4 road environment to get in there and run the offense. And I'd say 60-40, we at least see Dante Moore at some point in this game. I think I don't know if there's an exact line or margin, but I would love to see Dante Moore or Austin Novosad get in the game and do more than just hand the ball off. Now, that's mostly a selfish thing on our part. Like if, Oregon is up by 30 points and there's 3 minutes left and they have the ball, yeah, you're probably just going to hand the ball off a couple times. But would we all like to see what those guys look like running the offense against somebody that's not Oregon's defense in the spring game? Yeah. Yeah, of course. Of course you would. So I think there's a solid chance if Oregon plays the way that they are capable of and follows the aforementioned keys to the game, yeah, Dante Moore gets into this one. And I think that'd be great. Can I guarantee that? Of course not. It's college football. It's played on the field, not on paper. But that's why it's fun.